In 1994, only 3 years after Freddy Kreuger had been put to rest in the Nightmare on Elm Street universe, Wes Craven, the creator and director of the original movie 10 years prior, brought him back for a new nightmare. This time, Freddy was going after the people behind the original movie and, of course, their children. Modest reviews and box office returns at the time left this a standalone movie, but it's since gone on to be considered by many as ahead of its time and one of the best of the Freddy Kreuger movies. How does it fare 30 years after release? James Rowe from the King Street Cinema podcast joins me to discuss this cult classic horror movie. Like it or not, it definitely stands out in the franchise. Join me and James for this special episode of Beyond Graves and Stars, where we look at Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
From New Line Home Video, the $20 million box office smash. From Wes Craven, creator of A Nightmare on Elm Street, comes a new dimension in terror. It's me. Got the effect!
Awful close.
Wes Craven's New Nightmare. The best horror film in years. The most twisted scare fest in ages. 4 stars, the New York Post. Wes Craven takes it to a new dimension, raves the New York Times. New Nightmare reunites the stars from the original, including Heather Langenkamp, John Saxon, Nick Corey, and Robert Englund. Ever played in the Wes Craven's New Nightmare. This time, staying awake won't save you. Meet your maker.
James, thank you so much for coming back. The first time you've joined us on these Nightmare on Elm Street episodes.
Yes.
Elm Street and beyond.
Hi.
And this is the movie you particularly wanted to do.
Yeah, that's true. New Nightmare. Yeah, this is the one. If I wasn't going to be doing the first one, this was definitely the movie I wanted to talk about because big fan and think it's a little underappreciated.
Yeah. Let's just talk about your history with the film. I mean, it's 31 years old now. When did you first see it?
Probably not too. Maybe the year after it came out. Probably I'm going to say like 95, maybe 96. No, I reckon 95. I remember very clearly it being advertised and it really being sold hard. Like, you've got to come see this movie. It's a new nightmare, as it were. Freddy's different, set in like reality. It's got the actors playing themselves, all this stuff, and that looked cool. I thought, for me personally, I thought that was amazing. I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, because it's 31 years old now, and looking back, it's kind of difficult to see how revolutionary this was really for them.
Yeah,
I mean, it's done a lot now, and it's often seen as the sort of procedure really to Scream.
Oh, certainly.
Which Wes Craven done a few years later, 3 years later, I believe, was it? 2 years later.
Yeah, 2 years. Yeah.
So you first saw this on video.
Yeah.
Were you a fan of the rest of the movies?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm sure I'd seen them all. Yeah. Before I'd see. Yeah. Maybe. Oh no. Do you know what? I think I hadn't seen 2. I think 2 for some reason. I don't know why. I just didn't see it till a few years later. But the others, I'd seen.
Yeah, and you were still enjoying them at that point.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
because they'd killed Freddy off 3 years before. So
yeah,
looking back on these movies, I said to you because we've just literally just watched this. To me, it might be because I was younger at the time. This is 10 years after the original, but it seems like a longer period.
Sure.
And there was this is the 6th sequel, so they were churning them out quite quickly.
Yeah.
At one point, there was one a year. I think there was a gap between 2 and 3, and then 6 and this one. And other than that, there was one a year.
That's I think right. Well, so yeah, 5 was out in 89, I think, and then 1990 there wasn't one, and 91.
Oh, 91, yeah, that's true, yeah.
So they get, but again, only a year, and then you have a gap of 3 years for New Nightmare. But New Nightmare isn't really a sequel, is it? In the traditional sense.
Not in the... Well, it's a strange series anyway, in a way. And when I was reading interviews about this movie and stuff, and Wes Craven, who was only involved with the 1st and 3rd prior to this, even though he created it, said that he had trouble watching them all because to him as a series, a lot of the movies and the continuity didn't make sense.
Sure.
And so, I've said this in another episode, I see a few different trilogies in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, and this one I see, if it's not just a completely different entity, it's set in around the making of the film, which it is, but you could do a trilogy of part 1, 3, and this one with sort of Nancy.
Sure.
But it's kind of a spin-off from the franchise, really, opposed to a sequel.
Certainly, I mean, it is a new night. It's called New Nightmare really for a reason, clear reason that this is not meant to be connected with the original series, as it were. This is a completely different entity altogether, which Wes Craven in the film says, that this is not really Freddy, as it were. This is an ancient evil entity that has taken the form of Freddy. Yeah. Right? And that's really interesting, I think.
Should I do the quick letterbox summary? Because that will save us going. We'll talk about points in the film.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes if we just if we talk through the film, it gets a bit ranty.
Yeah.
So the tagline is, "This time staying awake won't save you." I'm not sure if that's true because the falling asleep stuff does happen in the film.
It does.
But anyway, it says, cast and crew from A Nightmare on Elm Street are terrorized by Freddy Kreuger and his razor-fingered glove as he crosses over into the real world. That's the vaguest description, but it's true. Freddy Kreuger, but as you've already explained, there's an entity what's taken on the form of Freddy Kreuger, and because he's been killed off in the movies, we discover he has to go somewhere else, and he comes into the real world in the form of Freddy because he likes the form of Freddy.
But this is the interesting thing, right? So I think we have a problem here when we talk about this film, because we try to look at it as being really connected with the series, right? And I think you've got to look at it sort of in a really how Wes Craven looks at it within the film. He sort of explains in the scene that he's in really how you look at it. Like it's not the film is the series, the franchise is its own thing, and Freddy in those movies was a sort of a contained, Wes Craven's creation. And somehow, for some reason, now that Freddy's dead in the series, in the franchise, this thing is coming into the real world, and it can't be sort of looked at as the same Freddy, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Even though it's sort of it's kind of confusing because it kind of is still the same thing.
Because this evil, for the sake of argument, let's call it demon.
Yeah.
Likes the form of Freddy.
Yeah, it likes the character.
Yeah, so he takes on those characteristics in this, but it is different. It is slightly darker.
Yeah.
It looks slightly different as well.
Made a completely different glove.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but I think like little things like there's not as many of the one-liners, but there is a few.
Sure.
And they're not as silly as in the few films before this.
Certainly.
So it's like the demon trying to do the one-liners, but not quite being Robert Englund.
I agree. You can completely see, I think, like why people perhaps would have a problem with this movie, who are fans of Freddy, because, like you say, it is almost like an impersonator, right?
Yeah.
And if you really wanted more Freddy from the franchise, but previous, you're not really getting that. You're getting like a someone trying to be him.
Yeah.
Which I could see, being something that people wouldn't like.
Yeah,
You know?
and it's gone back to that darker. And looking back, people were moaning, going, "Oh, it's gone too silly, it's gone too cartoony, and there was too many of the films." So that you can see what the New Line have done. It's like, well, it's a difficult one because people are complaining, but yet there's still a demand. So that's like a fresh look. It's almost like a rebooting of the franchise in a way.
I think so, but I also think it's something that Craven, I'm pretty sure, was like, this is me finishing my story, finishing my character.
This is the sequel he'd always wanted to do, and I think that because of the reviews and the box offices were going down, that they're like, right, let's do this, let's shake this franchise up. And when it came out, it didn't do so well.
No.
94 though, difficult year.
Ooh.
There's a lot of big films. You've got to think about that.
Yeah.
And I believe it was released the same week as Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Which no one expected to be the hit that it was.
Yeah, sleeper hit. Yeah.
And there was a lot going against it, and even at the time, it got a few good reviews, but mostly it didn't, which is ridiculous when you look back.
I think there are clear reasonings. People have enough, probably, of Freddy, full stop. I don't think, however you were going to tell the story, there were going to be a load of people that would be like, that's it, I do not want another Freddy film. Yeah. It's, like I say, it's very different. So if you are a massive fan and you wanted more of what we've had recently, you're not getting that.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And the whole, meta thing, it doesn't really work for some people, like looking at a film as saying, hey, we are living inside a movie here, A lot of people don't like that.
Do you think a lot of people thought it was almost trying to be too clever?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there would have certainly been a group of people who were like, what is this? This is pretentious nonsense.
Yeah, which is strange for me, because the concept could sound that, but when you watch it, I don't think it is.
No, I agree, yeah.
And I first saw this, I'd have been 12 or 13. I saw it in a cinema. During the day, it wasn't a very busy screening, I remember that. But I remember really liking it, thinking it's fresh. I loved the fact that the actors were playing themselves.
Yes.
And the mixing in, I mean, how the film evolves, and towards the end, they parts of it, they become the characters they played. It was strange because I was very young, but I got it. None of it went over my head.
No, it's not complicated in its storytelling. No. I think the ideas are quite large, though. I think the idea is a big one. It talks about it really could go very satirical and even political in a way, which he didn't do. But go into, and there are little hints talking about the effects that movies, these kind of films, can have on a young audience and stuff. Like the Doctor talks about stuff like that, and they really could have touched on that heavily with this. The kind of what happens to young minds who watch these kind of movies in the real world. Do they become monsters themselves? There's a big part of this film, I think, which I think is quite similar in a way to Child's Play, where you could, if you were coming at it from a different point of view, say that the kid is just sick, mentally disturbed, and is perhaps potentially could be, someone who could be a killer.
Yeah, true. And there's a lot of other things, like with the kid, the parents are actively trying to make it so he doesn't see these movies, but because it's everywhere, he still does. And I think that's commenting on it as well.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And early on, there's a scene on a chat show, and this is, for me, it's always felt strange how, especially in America, it was almost like it was sold to children. And there's kids dressed up as Freddy, cheering Freddy, and that's based on real chat shows that Wes Craven and all that had been on.
Yeah.
And it does sound bizarre, and I think he was trying to, first and foremost, he has made an entertaining film, and that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
He wanted to do something different, but there were things
that
he was talking about. And even early on, when Freddy's first coming into the real world, and Heather gets some prank phone calls, and you don't know if that is him or if it's a stalker. And she, around this time or just before, she had a real stalker.
Yes.
And they've brought that into the movie because
it might sound like a touchy area, but I think she wanted to make people aware of this sort of stuff.
Oh,
Going on.
absolutely. I'm sure it's a big part of wanting to do the movie.
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, and I mean, she never went on to become the huge star,
No.
but she done sitcoms and that sort of thing, and a lot of TV, as she mentions in it. But I think the offer for her was probably always there to come back into the franchise, even though they killed the character off. But you know what it's like in these movies.
Yeah.
But she, I think, turned it down until the right script, and for her, and I imagine all of the cast and stuff in this, they read it and thought, you know what, let's give this a go because it is different. Because as the franchise went on, the only constant actors Robert Englund,
Sure.
and a lot of them. That's one of the reasons that it didn't flow so well as a franchise, because they couldn't get the characters back.
I guess so. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of long franchise movies where they're pretty much keeping similar characters, rehashing what we've already seen, just in perhaps different scenarios, killing off the bad guy in different ways. I quite like the idea of things being a bit more anthologized, so that maybe you've got a theme around the kind of stories you want to tell, but they're different stories. I quite like the idea of Freddy being different, at times and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why I really like this, because I think it's a really interesting. It's not an amazing film. I think it's flawed as a movie. I think the concept, the ideas are great. I absolutely love it, and there are parts of it that I think are wonderful. But yeah, I don't think it's a masterpiece of horror or anything like that. But I very much enjoy it, and I'm so glad that that's the sort of film that Wes Craven made.
Yeah. But it's the same with Craven. I mean, he'd done his thing with Elm Street, and that's why he let other people. He might not have had the choice. New Line owned the rights, and
well, I'm sure that Bob Shaye would have wanted him back every time, but he just said no,
because he was involved with it all, wasn't he?
Yeah,
and he's in the film as well.
Yeah, so that's the executive producer of New Line Cinema. New Line, yeah.
That's the first time I've seen him referred to as Bob. It's always obviously he's credited as Robert. Isn't
yeah,
he?
His friends call him Bob.
Yeah. So, he's in it as is his sister, who plays a character in this and in the original movie.
Yeah,
and she's since gone on to do loads. She's in like Insidious and things like that, isn't she?
Yeah.
So
which I think, I'm guessing she works with just generally movies that New Line bring out.
Yeah, and she's sort of gone on to become a horror icon.
Yeah, certainly.
Which is strange as well, because since she's got older and got bigger roles in films, she's in so much more than you think.
Yeah.
There's a teen movie as well that she's a teacher in, as well as Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm sure of it. But yeah, good to see her. And it's quite interesting the different ways they bring back the actors. I mean, there's a funeral scene, and just in the background you see some of them. And I also read that not Robert Englund, Wes Craven wanted Johnny Depp to be in that funeral scene, because he was so big at the time, didn't even ask him. And then when he spoke to him, he was like, "Yeah, I'd have done that."
Yeah, sure.
Because he does pop up in part 6
he
very
does.
briefly.
Yeah.
I think Johnny Depp has never been ashamed of being in the franchise. I think he thanks it for a lot.
Well, it's the start of his career, so it would be odd if he was ashamed of it. Because I mean, obviously, it's not an awful film. It's one of the most important horror films of all horror films. So how could you be ashamed of working on that?
People tend to be ashamed if they're in a.
Oh yeah, if you were in something that was god awful that everyone thought was rubbish. But Nightmare on Elm Street is not that.
Yeah. So and he's very he seems to be appreciate that, and that series he done. I forget what it was. 21 Jump Street.
Yeah, I mean, he was huge, wasn't he? I mean, by the time, so I'm guessing they would have been casting this film in '93 probably, and he by that point, it's so long ago now, isn't it? We're talking 30 plus years. Johnny Depp was a star.
He'd done Edward Scissorhands, which
that was the movie that made him huge. But he was in 21 Jump Street at the same time as that, I think, still in the show. And that was huge, absolutely huge show in America. He was, a lot of people knew him for TV, from that show.
It would have been. This might have been the same year as What's Eating Gilbert Grape and things. Critically acclaimed.
That came out in '93, didn't it? So
as I said, they did get a lot of them back. John Saxon's in it, which is great to see.
Amazing, great John Saxon,
great actor who. Really good in this. I mean, he's always good.
Yeah, and he's one of the best parts in this film, I'd say, as in legitimately holding some of it together. Because the problem I do find with my main criticism of this film is that a lot of it does feel quite TV, like TV actory. Like some of the acting is not great, and I just feel like it's really important that there are some good actors in this film, and John Saxon is one of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because when you get a film like this where a lot of people play themselves who aren't actors, like we mentioned, Bob Shaye and Wes Craven, who I think are both okay in it,
Yeah, but they're only in it very, very briefly, which is important, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have any much. They've got parts of the story to tell,
definitely,
without actually having to do much dramatic stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And you mentioned as well while we're watching it, which is true, the guy who plays Heather's husband, who was a TV actor. I don't know if he's still acting.
Right.
I've
never seen him in anything else other than this. I read that he's mostly credited for television.
Yeah. So I mean, he's not great, is he?
He comes across very much like a TV actor.
And so does Tracy Middledorf, who looked familiar, who played the babysitter Julie.
Yeah.
She's got a few credits. She's in one of the Mission Impossible films and a film with Dean Cain, which, because Dean Cain's in it, I assume is a TV movie. Why wouldn't it be? So, but I mean, she's fine.
Yeah,
I think she's a better actress.
No one's awful in this. There's no one awful. It just has a lot of moments that feel very television, and that's a shame because The Nightmare on Elm Street, the original film, is so brilliant. It really is. It truly is. It's definitely, of the slasher films, it's my favourite. I would say, other than maybe Black Christmas. I absolutely love it. I think it's just so well put together, made. The pacing, everyone in it is exactly how they should be. It just looks great, and it feels right for the kind of film it is. This film, though, sadly, doesn't. For me, it has moments where I'm like, oh yeah, taking me out of it a little bit, and that's a real shame, because of like I say, I love the premise, I love the idea.
So you mentioned the pacing of
this is too long as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because the others are all, I think the longest one apart from this is probably 95 minutes, 93 minutes, whereas this is, including end credits, an hour and 52. I think, so it's a good 20 minutes longer.
Absolutely, and I think it feels it, and you think, this could be, you could knock this down to 90 and it'd work, still. I think it's very much, very much telling of the time. If people know 90s horror and sort of remember the changing, the period, between 80s horror into 90s horror, there was clearly, at least in the sort of more mainstreamy horrors, a real attempt to legitimize horror films, to give them more of a dramatic pacing, to give you more sort of the stories to be a bit more about the characters, know. And like I say, drama was more a part of it than just straightforward, here's a thing that's happening, bosh, let's go. And there are a lot of them. There are a lot of 90s horror films which have that feel, which means they're going to be a little longer than they should be. All coming up to the 2-hour mark, which is unnecessary for the majority of them.
And also, I mentioned this came out in 94, and there was a lot of big films in 94, and you think of the length of these other big films, not horror films, but I've mentioned Pulp Fiction, well over 2.5 hours, is it? Forrest Gump was that year,
about 2.5,
over 2 hours, and the other big one, or critically big one, was Shawshank Redemption that year, also long. So they were making them, as a start to a certain extent today. I don't think quite as much so.
But I'd say it begins really, this whole thing of horror movies becoming a bit longer and, like I say, a bit more thriller based. It's Silence of the Lambs that really begins this thing. And Silence of the Lambs on its own is a really important film and great, like a wonderful film. I absolutely love it. But it's just because of how well it did, winning Oscars, being the huge hit, again, sleeper hit that it was. I think there's loads of people like, that's how we've now got to be doing horror. And I just think that's not, it shouldn't have been the case.
It's almost like they don't realise there's room for different things. It's like, well, that's big, so let's do that.
Let's have that kind of pacing, that kind of feel to it.
Whereas I think one of the reasons...
But you've got to have great actors. You have to have great actors if you're going to do that. If it's going to be more drama, based horror,
Yeah.
you've got to have proper quality on the screen.
And that's what, when it comes to the other big franchise, Friday the 13th, all about 90 minutes, none of that. And the acting in that didn't matter so much, did
exactly.
it? You know,
it's not about that. That's what I mean. I mean, in this movie, we have a lot of scenes where we have Heather and her son Dylan are doing a lot of talking. You know, there's a lot of heavy characterization in this, and it's unnecessary. It really is unnecessary. We'd get exactly the same feel without it, and the pacing would be so much better.
Yeah. But it does show what a great actress Heather Lowenkamp is.
Absolutely, she's great in it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, she's great in the first one, obviously, but she's a teenager then.
Yeah.
Whereas now, well, she's probably 20 when she's done it, but played a teenager.
I think she was 18 when they shot it.
Okay.
But I think she was like 20 when it came out.
Yeah, so she'd have been like early 30s.
Yeah.
When this, and a good actress. And recently she was in Life of Chuck as well, which great film.
Yeah, that was
yeah, and she was. But I think it's a shame that she never went on to become the leading lady, so to speak. But I mean, we don't know. I mean, I know she did marry a special effects guy.
Yeah.
So maybe she has become a family. I don't know.
Yeah, well, she got kids. I know that. You know, so maybe she went down that family route more. Didn't pursue.
Yeah.
Kind of wanting to do more. So I don't know. I have no idea. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right?
But she certainly is a talent.
Yes.
But also iconic in the horror and film industry anyway because of that role.
Yes.
So maybe, like, it isn't always about people go, oh, well, this person could have done this. We don't know the ins and outs.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that, she is the star of this film.
She's the star of the franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, the three films that she's in, for me are the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, most people would agree with that, who are fans of the franchise. But then in the third one, it's more, it focuses on this group of youngsters.
Yes.
And she comes in, but that presence of her, I think in the third one, it feels like she's in more of the film and does more than she actually does.
Yeah, probably.
But that says a lot about the character and her performance.
I tell you what, when I saw 3 for the first time, I didn't know she was in it.
Oh, really?
I did not know, and I didn't bother. I don't know if, like, in the beginning of the film, can't remember if she's credited. I can't remember, when the opening credits. I didn't read them, clearly, because if she was, I would have noticed her name. But when she comes on screen, I'm like, oh, wow!
Yeah.
She's in this. Cool. Brilliant.
Yeah.
It was almost like, this makes sense. Yeah, she's bringing a Nancy back to help these kids out.
Were you like myself then and watched them in a different order?
Yeah, very much. They were all over the place. I saw the first one first.
Yeah.
But the others, they were.
It was watching them when we could, wasn't it? How we could get hold of them.
Pretty much, yeah.
And, but yeah, it's great now, actually. Well, I say it's great. The only way you can really buy these movies physically is in a box set. You can't buy them.
Right. Well, that makes. I guess it makes sense.
And it's a bargain, isn't it?
Yeah. Because I'm sure it's not very expensive, the box set.
That's what I mean. Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those things that they just thought, well, we'll do that because everyone will want all of them.
Yeah.
And if they don't, I think it works out like a $5 or more to buy the whole box set and buy part 1.
I'm surprised that one doesn't.
One's available on its own,
right.
The rest aren't.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, and it's. I was just looking at the box set before, actually, because it's not great for the extras. There's a commentary on the last one.
Yeah.
But then there's this sort of interviews padded out as different. But the first one, there's loads. There's loads of extras, and there's like a making of thing and stuff. Which this is one thing I do like about the Freddy films is the love, not just from the fans, but the people involved. And there's like the Never Sleep Again documentary, which is like 3 hours long.
Yeah.
There's not really a need for us to do these podcasts, but I think it's nice for fans to talk about stuff as well as and just something to look back on, because there hasn't been one of these movies for a while. Really, this is the last that I count as a proper.
Yeah. Well, this is I wanted to mention the next one that came out 9 years later, Freddy vs. Jason, because I remember at the time that this one, New Nightmare, came out, that if you were a big Freddy fan and a Jason fan, kids were all talking about that.
Yeah.
Like, when are they going to get a movie together? That was talked about in the early 90s. I remember it very clearly. Like, people saying it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen.
For years, wasn't it?
Yeah. So when this one came out, again, that might have been another thing that people were a bit disappointed about.
Yeah.
that it wasn't Freddy versus Jason. You know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because it's been there a few years and didn't. It was the end of Jason Goes to Hell.
Yeah.
Which was early 90s, so a few years before this, where you see the glove.
That's right.
Pull the mask.
But even before that, it was definitely a thing that people talked about.
Yeah.
And of course, New Line had at that point the rights to the Friday the 13th franchise, or at least the
Jason name, wasn't it?
Jason name. Yeah. So the idea of having them actually being in a movie seemed like something that was definitely on the cards and very soon. And yet it took a number of years for it to actually happen. And then when it did, it wasn't really the movie I don't think that people wanted.
Yeah, and I think it was that, like, the buzz had gone and we've been waiting too long for it.
Absolutely.
But just having a look, I mean, this movie cost $8 million.
Yeah.
And it made 19.8 million, so it still made
it made money,
but it's
not
nothing
much,
compared to what the.
But yeah, that's got to be the smallest, right?
Yeah,
the smallest box office.
I can't remember. I'm going to be honest with the listener here.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't recorded part 6 yet.
Right.
Even though you'd have probably heard it.
Do you know
what?
So
I don't know how much that one made.
I would be so surprised if this movie is not the lowest.
Yeah. I will quickly check part 6 now, but. Freddy vs. Jason cost 30 million.
30?
So
wow.
They must have been confident considering it cost over 20 million more than New Nightmare.
Sure.
But the box office was 116.6 million.
It had huge names. The names in that movie for the time were, big.
Yeah.
Brandy and stuff like that. I mean, loads of people are going to go see. Loads of young people are in the early 2000s are going to go see that movie, aren't they? Not necessarily because they're horror fans, but just because of some of the names that are in it. And then you also get the horror fans as well.
Yeah, and was it even a horror movie?
But that's the real sad thing. I remember seeing it twice, and I watched it the second time because I was so sure that I hadn't seen the movie correctly, because I thought it couldn't have been as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah,
I've got to see it again. I was like, no, it really was that bad.
Well, you'll have to listen to my views on the episode.
Sorry. You're going to do Freddy versus
Jason. We're going to do Freddy versus Jason probably next episode.
Oh.
And then I'm going to end on an episode about the remake.
Oh, you're going to do... Yeah, right. Sorry. Sorry. Well, yeah, sorry. I'm not a fan. But do you know what? That was back then in 2003. If I saw it now, maybe I have different feels.
I will give you a sneak peek. I certainly enjoyed it more when I watched it more recently than I did.
When it came out.
Yeah. But part 6 cost 9 to 11 million, and it made 34.9. So 6 was still a big hit, really.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Obviously not making the money of the original, but it's still sort of 7 years later.
They all did well, didn't they?
Yeah, they all did. Better. I mean, that one's a lot better than I thought. Yeah. But they obviously took into consideration, because New Nightmare was a lower budget film to make.
Yeah. Not
by a lot.
No.
So I think they were sort of right. We need to try to make them as profitable as possible, obviously. So so it's a lower budget movie, but not by a lot. But to me, there feels less practical effects in this.
Certainly.
And that's one thing I want to talk about next is what do you think of the special effects and gore and something?
Very little gore in this film, which I'm fine with.
A little bit, but what is there is well done.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine. It's perfectly acceptable for the kind of film that they're going for. I think so. I think the effects are great. They look absolutely, for the time and everything. They're what I think what you're wanting. They are very much of their time, though. I think so. If you watch it now, be a bit like, and you weren't there at the time, and you might be a bit kind of. Not so great.
It's the CGI bits. There's not much. There's a little bit of CGI and green screen, which now is obvious. But back then, that's the only way they could.
Yeah, absolutely, and it wasn't bad. I personally, like I say, for me being a person of the time when it came out, watching it, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. There's some nice matte painting in it right at the end as well, which is nice. I think the set for the finale is really good.
Yeah.
It's got it doesn't really explain to you. I quite like this about it, actually, because it makes me think. I considered it quite a lot watching it again, going, why is this place where we are? Do you know what I mean? It's like it's not the boiler room, which is great because it shouldn't be. And it's it's ancient, isn't it? It's got this feeling of Greek and Roman and these, myths, ancient myths kind of thing, which is what this character is, right? This Freddy character, that's what he is. He is an ancient demon.
So towards the end of the movie, I'm assuming people have seen it.
Yeah.
When Freddy, it's the final battle between Heather, Freddy, and Dylan the son's there, and they're sort of pulled down, which is a really cool scene.
Like a Hades Neverworldy kind of thing, like saying.
I really like the scene where Nancy's dragged down and you see it sort of change and evolve into where she ends up.
Yeah.
But Dylan is kind of obsessed with the story of Hansel and Gretel.
There's that as well.
And there's that fairy tale element of it. And that's very relevant to the plot and the fear of the child.
Sure.
He loves the story.
Yeah.
But it also relates to, or reminds me of in the other movies, in the later sequels, where Freddy takes what the teenagers are either love or are scared of in his way of killing them.
Absolutely.
So it's like a subtler way of that.
Yeah.
Which is cool and relates to the other movies in a way. Another thing I love in this film is, we mentioned John Saxon. He's just friends with Heather, like they probably are in life. That might be exaggerated a bit more. But towards the end, when he comes back into it, that he changes into the character of the dad.
Yeah.
And Heather doesn't, but acknowledges this. And I like how it builds and it's subtle. Like, I noticed for the first time, because I hadn't noticed this before, they call Freddy Kreuger Fred early on in that bit, which in the first two movies, I think he's referred to as Fred. It's not till, I think, the third one, is it?
Well, he calls himself Freddy in the first film.
But I think they
Nancy does call him Fred Kreuger.
Yeah. And in part two is obviously called Freddy's Revenge.
Exactly.
But I think he's always called Fred.
Yeah, well, I think he's mentioned certainly. Yeah, they refer to him as Fred Kreuger, but I do think the name Freddy is also used. Like I say, I'm sure that in the first one he calls himself Freddy. He says, "Come to Freddy."
Okay, yeah, but yeah, I mean they always called him. When they refer to him as Fred, I think of that. When he's alive and the fear of the killer that he was, that's what they called him. They never called him Freddy, and Freddy is almost the cartoony side of him. Sure, and which I think is what he, as the character, wants.
But if we wanted to get more into the kind of the sinister side of Fred Kreuger, I think the reason why he calls himself Freddy and the way he would have said it to kids, is because it sounds like daddy.
Yeah.
And I think it's this very, sick kind of thing that he would, to refer to himself as like this, I'm your daddy, come to me. Sort of, it's, I think there's elements to that they're originally in the idea of him calling himself Freddy.
Yeah.
Which is probably what he said to the kids when he was actually a real, human, not the demon thing that he becomes.
Should we Dylan, we haven't mentioned Dylan.
Yeah.
Played by the then quite big child actor.
Oh, yeah, crazy. He was in a fair few massive movies, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Or big-ish anyway. I mean, they did the business.
Yeah.
And he was a face that people knew.
And he seemed to be around for quite a while because he was in Kindergarten Cop, which feels like it was made a long time before, but actually was only, 3 years before? Was it 1990, so 4 years before?
Yeah.
And he was in that. It's Miko Hughes is his name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who I believe still acts. But he was in Mercury Rising after this.
Right.
Apparently he was in Spawn, Apollo 13.
Yeah.
But probably most well known for 1989's Pet Sematary.
Yeah, he was only 3 years old.
Only 3.
Amazing.
That, so. Yeah. And
he's terrifying in that.
Yeah, he scares me.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
But now though, I just looked him up. You wouldn't know it was him.
No, of course not. Because he's a grown man now.
Yeah, but some of them.
Yeah.
Some child actors.
Okay, yeah, Macaulay Culkin, yeah, sure. But most don't. He sort of change. I'm sure has he got facial hair and.
In some pictures he has, some he hasn't.
Yeah.
I think he looks very like big-eyed and that sort of, he's.
Yeah, well, he always had those.
Yeah, but now he sort of hasn't as much. So if you look really hard, you can tell it's him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's done loads of stuff, still acting, as I say, and he's going to be in the forthcoming Chronicle of Narnia, which I think is Greta Gerben, is it? Who done Barbie? I think she's doing that. So he's going to be in that, and he's in things you wouldn't think of, like Tropic Thunder and stuff like that.
Right, so he plays sort of smaller roles.
Yeah, but he was.
But still working, so that's good.
That's good, yeah. And I forgot he was in Cops and Robinsons with Chevy Chase and.
I haven't seen that one.
Wow.
No.
Jack Palance and.
Jack Palance.
Yeah.
I like Jack Palance.
In from City Slickers.
I like Chevy Chase.
Yeah, who doesn't? Well, lots of people, but I do. What do you think of his performance?
Yeah, I think for the role, for what he's doing, he's great. Again, there are some moments where I'm like, there are some moments where I don't like about his character, but I just think it's just the way it's made. I just
it's not him, is it? It's
I feel like some of the the pacing, they're just shots of him where I think we don't need this. We don't need this. This is slowing the film down. But other than that, I think he's great. He does what we want from him when he goes a bit more evilly. He's great. Yeah. He's great when he's doing all the sort of the scary voices and stuff like that, and the faces and stuff.
And he's great. Doing the Freddy lines because is he possessed, isn't he? We don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean that again, I quite like. I quite like that element that Freddy is challenging. I forget the word now, but he's basically
channeling.
Yes, that's his way of getting into the reality is through the kid. Yeah, and I like that. I like that as a plot device. It's nice.
One scene I really like is the first time that John Saxon and Heather properly sort of talk. They've taken the kid to the park.
Yeah.
And this reminds me of I thought he was in Suspiria, but it is
Tenebrae.
Yeah.
The other Dario Argento.
Yeah, and there's sort of chatty scenes and that with him and the characters. And
very much so,
good. John Saxon would often appear in 70s sort of Italian and low budget and all sorts of horror films.
He spoke fluent Italian because he was Italian American.
Okay, yeah, so that makes sense. And he'd do it. Just reminded me of scenes from those films, because it's him or because of the way it's shot in the park. But mentioned that how some of the effects and stuff are dated. The little kid gets on top of the top of a kid's play area,
climbing frame,
but and he's right
very high up, very dangerous,
very high up, and he's very little space to stand.
Yeah,
and obviously they couldn't have just dumped him on there and got him to balance, so it just looked really good.
Yeah,
so that was like, well, okay, how did they do that? Which is I wouldn't have thought there was any CGI or.
No, I'm sure. Just that it's a trick. It's looking like he's actually up really high when he's not.
That's what I mean. It just looks great.
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, I think when it comes to the set pieces, right? I think they're all great. Whenever we have an actual bit of action going on, it's cool. It works. There's not one bit where, other than maybe just outdated special effects, it works. Everything's good. My problem is just the pacing with the dramatic elements.
The stuff in between.
Yeah.
It's almost like they've done the pacing and the plot of a normal Freddy film, and then in between are these dialogue bits.
There's plot. No, not even plot heavy. It's characterization heavy, which is just unnecessary. Because we can get there. We can find out everything we need to know by just having our characters do the things they're doing instead of having these conversations.
I think they bring the Bob Shaw bit and the phone conversation with Robert England aren't really necessary, but they wanted to bring them in.
Yeah.
You to have a scene seeing each of these people.
But I think it's more, like I say, I think it's the relationship between the mother and the son, where I just think there's too much of the going over the same kind of scenes.
Yeah, them sitting in bed talking.
Yeah, there's too much of that.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
I think they could have trimmed that down a fair bit and we'd still get the same effect.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's been a while since I've seen this one, probably 10 years maybe, but I probably watched it first come on Blu-ray. And the bits that I really remembered, I still think stand out and are great, and that would be the introduction, the scene with they're making a new glove for the new, and it comes alive and turns on the special effects people. And then there's the death of the babysitter, where it's in the hospital, and you see it's reminiscent to the death of one of them in the first film.
The first death of
which is
the character. It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's the character that you think is going to be the main character.
Yeah.
Who's Nancy's best friend, Tina.
Yeah, Tina, yes.
Yeah.
Who, and you see her being dragged and the body dragged.
Up the wall onto the ceiling.
Yeah, and another blonde youngster, which is probably deliberate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's nice throwback. And
well, there's a lot of that, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's even subtler bits, I think, pretty much from the get-go.
Yeah.
Of like just bits.
Even lines of dialogue.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But becomes more and more heavy as the film progresses.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that build into it. And it's almost, it's like it goes from over 2 hours of reality to a nightmare film.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's deliberate, and I think that works. But yeah, I mean, I think it's 15 minutes too long.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
But would we be saying that? Well, would we be saying that if all the films were that long? If they're all that long, I don't think there's been as many of them. We'd have got fed up with them.
Probably. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you would be cool with them. I mean, you like Terrifier, which is crazy long, right? I mean, if it just had enough kills, it just had really good kills constantly.
Well, the first Terrifier is 90 minutes.
Yeah, sure, but the most recent one's very long.
I do like Terrifier 2 and 3, but I've only seen 3 once and 2 twice in the few years they've been out. Whereas, say, something like, just looking at the newer films I've got around me, say something like Black Phone, which is probably a good hour shorter than part 2, I've seen 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, of course. If something is very long, you're more likely not going to watch it as many times. But you still, if you're into that sort of thing, you're still going to enjoy it if it's doing all the things that you like.
Totally. But I with these sort of movies, I kind of rate them on the rewatchability.
Right.
And a film can be great. I mean, one of my favourite films, like a lot of people's, I would have to say, is Shawshank Redemption.
Right.
But I've only seen that 3 or 4 times in my life.
I don't like it. I really don't like it as a film. It's weird, isn't it? Yeah. Because I know most people love it.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing, and I don't get the appeal. I mean, I can see it's a fun film in a way, like it moves along quite nicely and it's interesting, but I don't understand why it's rated so highly. If it wasn't rated so highly, I'd probably
love it.
not love it, but be a bit more like, I don't know. It's one of them kind of things.
When I first saw it,
I really hate the end as well.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I remember when it first came on DVD. Actually, it was one of those you turn the DVDs over.
Yeah,
the title screen was him. It's a spoiler, basically.
Right. Oh God.
My mate got that.
No.
But
anyway.
when I first saw it, I'll just quickly say, my dad borrowed it on video, and I was quite young, and I didn't really know the hype of it. It wasn't the sort of film that interested me. And he was like, just watch it. Yeah. And I sat and watched it with him, and I was like, really good.
Right.
But I think if I'd have come from the side of seeing all the reviews and other people other than my dad,
that's where I came from.
Yeah. So
maybe different. Maybe. Yeah, because I didn't see it when it came out, or just many years later.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think this film.
But I do know what you mean about like really enjoying movies and not having to watch them, because that's kind of more my thing anyway. Like I have loads of movies like that where I just absolutely love them, but I've only seen them maybe even once on a few of them, where I'm like, I don't really need to see it again. I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I've only seen another one that you might not like it. I'll say that now. Okay. But original Godfather. Right?
Oh, I love Godfather.
Yeah, good way. But that's really, I've only seen it twice, and I don't feel that's the sort of movie that I don't feel the need to, unless I want to find out like the commentaries and that sort of thing. I don't even own a copy of The Godfather.
Yeah,
I own a lot of.
But I don't either.
But I think for this sort of horror film, a Freddy movie, I like them short. I like the in-out. I like they're almost like an episode of a TV series.
I agree. I think they're much more suited for that kind of thing, even if they're a bit more serious. I don't think they need. This is the problem. This is really the only real problem with this film, is that because it's a bit more of a serious story, it feels like it's supposed to be longer. And that's what happened in the 90s with horror films. They were trying to be a bit more, like I say, drama-based, thriller-based, something a little bit more. Please, can you take our horror film seriously, please? Here, look, it's 2 hours. Right, that 2-hour film is something you're supposed to take seriously. Why can't an 80-minute film be something you take? You can enjoy, a serious film you can enjoy. It doesn't have to be 2+ hours.
True. Yeah. Then after this, Wes Craven went to do Scream, which most people don't. And I don't understand why. I see that as a comedy.
Because it is, isn't it? Satire.
Satire. Whereas this is meta. but there's not really. There's a few little bits like dark humor in this, like Robert Englund working out what's going on and just disappearing. That always. I find it funny, but I don't laugh at it. Whereas Scream, there's all those references, and it's and I never got why. Like there was a Scary Movie come out, which was spoofing what I saw was already as a bit of a spoof.
Agreed.
Don't get me wrong, there are bits in the Scary Movie films I find funny.
Yeah, sure.
But so it's almost like maybe one of the things that worked for Scream in later on in the 90s were we needed, as horror fans, that little bit of light relief with the humour, because it had been sort of 5 years of this darker stuff. And
sure,
when you think of 90s horror, you apart from Scream, you don't think of maybe the Chucky ones, but that started in the 80s. You see, it is darker stuff, isn't it?
Well, I think it's yes, certainly, but I think more, like I said, I think just wanting the audience to take it more seriously, right? Wanting you to almost like horror had spent this whole decades of not being a legitimate genre, and now please understand it is. I think that's nonsense. I think that thinking is awful. It's always had great. There's always been great horror films, and just because the 80s was full of a lot of trash, right, doesn't mean that the genre of horror is something that you can't. That can't be seen as a great movie. You don't need to say, hey, look, we've got drama in our horror film, right? You don't need to do that.
And also, in the 80s you had VHS, so there's a lot of cheaper films being made for this market, so the quality wasn't as good. But is that really much different than in the 50s and 60s, the ones made for late night drive-ins?
Absolutely. B-movies. It's B-movies, right?
Yeah. But in that era, there was B-movies, but you also had Psycho.
Yeah.
There's always room for both. I love both for different reasons.
Sure, me too.
And this is the problem, I think. Maybe because the Freddy films were such big hits, they were looked down on a bit more because there was that video rental market and there was toys and all this sort of stuff that people saw them as trash, and they were getting a bit more light-hearted and silly.
Sadly, I think you're right.
Yeah, and then I think because of that, they had a little bit of a break, only 3 years, but it seemed longer.
Yeah.
Because we wanted when you're young. Then they thought, right, we've got to take it more seriously. That's what people want. Maybe people did want it, but it was that case of the Freddy fans just wanted it how it was.
Sure.
And the other people who may have appreciated it and do now appreciate it weren't going to go and see a Freddy film anyway.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the critics didn't like it because it was, as far as they were concerned, just another Freddy movie. They could see that it was attempting something different, but they didn't care. Right? A lot of them just were like, it's just another film where Freddy's going around killing people and people were scared of him.
Yeah.
It's like, I can... If you don't like... This is the thing with a lot of horror critics. A lot of film critics. They don't like horror films. They just don't. It's like, right, well, it doesn't matter what the film's going to do then, because it's going to be a horror movie. It's going to exist in the genre of horror. You're not going to like it. You're just not.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially a horror sequel.
Exactly. I've seen his face before. I don't want to see it again. Bad film.
Yeah. A few critics did like it.
Sure.
Look on the Wikipedia, there's a couple, but mainly didn't get bad reviews, it got mainly average ones. And then it really didn't become much until post Scream, when people look back on it, really. And which is a shame, because both of us, this actually came out before we'd have known each other.
Sure, absolutely. A long time.
Yeah, because we would have met.
I didn't even live in this county.
But we'd have probably met early 2000s, late 90s, probably.
Yeah, early 2000. Yeah.
So
it's been 20 something years now at this point. Yeah.
So we both were fans of the film, both liked it, and I remember people I spoke to, it would have been in school and then in college. It was one of those movies that I don't think I'd met someone as a horror fan who didn't like it.
Yeah.
But it was that, because it was a big release and it was really pushed, there was,
it really was,
posters and stuff everywhere, that a lot of that budget might have actually gone on the promotion, that I feel bad for this film, but it is getting the recognition now.
Yeah.
You speak to Elm Street fans and people involved, is this and Part 3 are the ones everyone says they're the ones we like. Yeah.
I think 2 over the years has got more as well. It's kind of elevated people's enjoyment and understanding of it. I think being not just another slasher film.
Yeah, and
having more subtext.
That's the thing. The ones people like more are the ones that are different.
Yeah.
And then, with parts 4, 5, and 6, there's so much to enjoy in those films.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they are parts of it are just going through the motions.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one especially, it's set up, kill, but there's much more going on. The quality of most of the acting is great,
Yes.
with the actors in it. And even things like the funky theme tune at the end we liked,
Yeah. I like the score in it. It's great. There's like I say, there's very little in it that I think is not great, really.
Yeah.
Overall as a film. But I certainly could not say to someone, "Oh, you shouldn't see that."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I absolutely recommend it.
Yeah, but you definitely have to have seen the original.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it probably help if you sort of live through the 90s as well to get a lot of.
I feel it again. I don't like kind of being a bit negative about that so much because I'm going to sound negative, but it's really not. It does feel of its time.
Yeah.
And like you say, I think if you weren't around then, it probably does feel a bit naff.
Yeah.
And that's a shame. I think that's certainly sadly something that holds it back.
Yeah, but then saying that, the retro side of it to certain younger people, that might be an appeal.
True, because the 90s seem to be the thing now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But then a lot of people would probably go into it thinking it's an 80s film because it's Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
So
and it's really not.
No.
There's nothing about this film that feels like it's trying to be the 80s. This is very much the 90s we're existing in now. Yeah.
But overall, I've really enjoyed going back to this one because it's, I would say, it's up there. It probably is my favourite apart from the original.
Yeah.
But it's also the one, apart from maybe part 6, that I've watched the least.
Oh, interesting.
Not counting the remake. Because of its length and because it's more dialogue driven, less humour and less murder.
Definitely. Definitely. All that is true.
Because my times to watch Nightmare on Elm Street films nowadays, unless I'm doing podcasts on them, is I've either been to the pub and relaxed after, or I've been at work all day, don't want to think, stick a Freddy film on.
Yeah.
Whereas this one you can't really do that.
No, it's not that. I mean, I'd say the only if you're wanting just to chill out and you decide to put this film on is if you're looking for the 90s.
Yeah.
Right. If you're looking for something that looks like the 90s, that feels like the 90s, you could put this on.
Yeah. You can't find Party of 5 on a streaming service.
Yeah, exactly. Put this on.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
But it is. Yeah. But it's another thing because the characters in it, they're older. It's not based around teenagers.
No.
It doesn't quite feel to me as naff as say I Know What You Did Last Summer or even Scream.
Absolutely, I agree.
But that side of it is kind of the appeal of it because it's watching those films is like it's all, as well as being good horror films. They've also got that Empire Records feel,
Right.
So whereas this hasn't. This is a
no. This is grown up most. I mean, obviously we have a child, but it's mother child.
Yeah.
Right. Theme.
Yeah.
So that's crucial.
Which is strange because when we were the age, we were a lot older than a little kid in it, and we were a lot younger than the adults.
Yeah, I mean, true. We were certainly older than the boy, but I mean, what we came out, we were 12, 13.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was 8, I think.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you're 12, 13, 8 is not anywhere near you as in age, but in reality, it's
Well, it's so strange as well that I saw this in a cinema because my birthday's in November, and I reckon it came out around that time. So I think I'd have been nearly 13 or 14 when I saw this in the cinema, and it
was 15, wasn't it?
It was 15,
so and 13-year-olds going to be a lot of 13-year-olds going to see it.
Yeah, and I distinctly remember older gentleman coming up to us and showing us, me and my friend, showing us his ticket and asking whether he was in the right film, meaning, are we in the right film?
Right.
And I think he went to tell the staff who just didn't do anything about it, thank God. Around the same time, I'd have seen stuff like Speed and that sort of thing. But it went up to an 18 on video, which often happened. We spoke about Starship Troopers, the same thing happened with that.
Yeah.
But with this one, I remember reading it somewhere, and it might have been in a video review in maybe Empire when it came out, so I used to read that a lot, that it went up to an 18 because the main threat in the movie was aimed at a really young child.
Right.
which is interesting.
I think so, because I don't really see why that necessarily is because a lot of the threat that is towards the kid isn't, other than right at the end. I mean, I think that's what it must have been. It must have been the final scene, because I think up to that point, even though the child is in danger, let's say, he is more the thing that's bringing Freddy through. So like he needs Dylan to be alive. It's not like he's attacking Dylan necessarily, where at the end he is, and there's that whole thing with the tongue and stuff. And I think that stuff there is probably what gave it the 18.
True, yeah. I think now it would go down to 15, like the original is now 15.
Yeah.
And I keep meaning to research it. I mentioned it in another episode that I think part 5 is 15 now as well.
Really?
I think.
I mean, that's got a kid, hasn't it? Like that's kind of Freddy's child.
Yeah.
He gets a bit older and he does the voice as well, which I quite like that bit. Yeah. I like. See, there's not one of them. I like Freddy's Dead as well. Yeah. There's not one of them that I dislike. You know, I think the whole which is, there is not another franchise that's this long that I feel that way about. Like there's Halloween, Friday the 13th. Even Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I do not feel that way. I do not feel as strongly as I do about Nightmare on Elm Street.
I think this is why I picked to do this one first as my first sort of mini big season. If that makes sense. I've done sort of 4 or 5 films in the past.
Sure.
But with this, it's consistently, if not great, but good.
Yeah.
The other one I can think of that I do want to do, and I might do it next year, is Friday the 13th.
Right.
Because I don't think that as a franchise it's as good.
No.
But there's less studs in it than, say, like Halloween. The original's great.
Yeah.
And then it's so inconsistent, it's ridiculous.
Agreed, yeah.
It's like 3 different separate franchises in a way with the same villain in.
Yeah. That's again what we mentioned earlier on in this podcast about how, I mean, I don't necessarily dislike the idea of doing different things with the franchise, but you're right. I just think with the Michael Myers character, they just really went off in different directions with it.
And then the whole bringing Jamie Lee Curtis's character back from the dead,
exactly, all of that kind of stuff. That sort of retroactive things, like that film didn't actually happen. Kind of thing.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
You can ignore something, but as in don't have the characters refer to it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it hasn't happened. Whereas in this, things haven't. But I like the Chucky one because there's sort of different blocks of it.
True.
Which is great. Chainsaw Massacre, I think, I don't know about my favourite, but I think Chainsaw Massacre, if there has to be, is the greatest horror film ever made.
Well, the first one's amazing. It's a fantastic film. Second one's brilliant too for different reasons.
Yeah, and then it's all over the place.
Exactly.
Which is,
so, like, what?
Yeah. Which is a shame, and that's what happens, I think, when people can buy the rights to a movie and just do what they want.
It shouldn't be allowed.
Which is a shame. It should be bad.
It should be bad.
Yeah, banning a film and bring it back, burn them. Burn them all. But as well, just before we wrap it up, quick thoughts. So you mentioned Freddy vs. Jason. What about the remake? What are your thoughts on that?
I haven't seen it. I think we mentioned this before. Yeah. I have not watched it. I've heard awful things about it. I don't say that. I think you quite enjoyed it.
Nah.
Did I get that wrong?
Well, no. I don't hate it.
You don't hate it.
That's how I.
Right. Well, that's probably quite generous then, because generally, from what I hear, people say it's not good and don't watch it. Just don't bother. It's not worth it. So I just never have.
Yeah. So
well,
maybe after the episode comes out and you give it a listen, you might feel it. But that's I've spoken to. I'm doing it. Lauren Janiper's coming back. She's done the first movie, and we have spoken because I don't want to big up a naff movie, but I don't see the point of just slating a film.
Sure.
So many podcasts just do that.
No, that's awful.
Like, I said to her, it's like, I'm not a huge fan of it, but we can moan about it, but have you got stuff you like about it? She's like,
good.
So I'm interested to see. It's almost like, that's try to find the good in it.
Sure, I agree.
Because there's probably dozens of podcasts out there slagging it off.
I'm sure there are.
Probably are, but that's not.
Well, sadly, that seems to get more views, though. Doesn't it? That's the thing. I think that's why. I think a lot of time I get the feeling anyway that people do a lot of these kind of podcasts where they are ripping on a film or whatever it is they're doing a podcast on, and they're probably going well over the top just because they know that's what people, more people will listen to it.
Yeah, I mean, if something is terrible. It's nice to have a laugh at it, but I don't see I'm not going to waste my time.
Spending it like an hour plus just
Yeah.
being shitty about.
Yeah,
films.
it's not worth it. But then
No.
if there is something which has happened, we both me and you have spoke about a couple of films we didn't like in previous things, but we're not
like
gonna,
the Starship Troopers. I think one of those we didn't particularly.
and
like the third one, yeah,
and The Last Chances wasn't great.
The Last Chance as well.
But we did sort of laugh at them, but we weren't.
Absolutely, and we weren't like just terrible, were we? It was
Yeah.
just like constantly just being horrible. It was just like, but you got to be honest about a thing, I think.
Yeah.
And so if there is something that is truly bad, I mean, the problem with films like The Chances 6 and the third Starship Troopers is they're just poorly made. They're just not put together very well, and you may enjoy that. You may, a member of the audience might really like the fact that a film is really ropey. I know loads of people do like films like that. I personally don't.
Yeah,
I just don't.
That's why we differ on The Room.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like it.
Yeah, but I think for me, I wouldn't like it as much. A franchise of movies that I do like.
Yeah.
That's why with Transers, I enjoyed. But sort of slightly less as it went along, but I enjoyed all of them apart from that last one.
Yeah, certainly.
And I didn't want to make fun of it because I felt a bit bad for it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, thankfully it was very short.
Yes.
So that was a plus. There you go.
Yeah, we go. We had it. We've plussed that one up again.
Yeah.
Right. New Nightmare. We both
highly
recommend it. I just want to quickly. I don't know if you want to give it a rating. I just want to. So after I end it on going through what IMDb and stuff have given it, I can't actually find it. Here we go. Okay. Yeah. So on start Letterboxd, 3.3 out of 5.
Yeah.
Amazon for some reason 4.3 out of 5.
Okay.
I've never seen that. And 77% on Rotten Tomatoes. And 6.4 on IMDb.
Yeah, I mean those all sound fine. I mean, I would say if it was out of 5, if I'm being really, I'd say 4 probably. More so for what it's trying to do, and I love the fact that Wes was really trying something interesting there. But overall, just as a film, probably like a 3.5. Yeah,
but that's for what's essentially a 7-part in a franchise.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely, absolutely. And like I said, really, I mean, for me, a 3, if you get 3 out of 5, that's good.
Yeah, your 3s are normally my 4s.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. When I say 3, in my head, that feels good. That feels like a good movie. That's a film that you'd watch more than once. That you could very much enjoy. See a lot of good stuff in it. And if I'm talking more 4, which I am with this one, then that's a great. Yeah, it's a great film.
Yeah. It's for me, it's a solid film. It's enjoyable. It's not one I can watch over and over again, but as we've talked all about that, I think it shakes the franchise up enough to make it interesting again, but also the way that film ended, watching those last scene, what a way to end it. It really wraps the whole thing up well.
I would have loved, I mean, that's the thing, it's like I would have loved it if that's where they just stopped, right?
Yeah.
If that's where it ended and there was no Freddy, Jason and the reboot or whatever it is. I know people want more. I understand it. They want more of characters that they love, right? But I also like things to end well because it's very rare.
Yeah. In a way, I do see that as the end because Freddy vs. Jason and the reboot are their own thing.
True.
So in a way, that is the end of this story. But we've still got 2 episodes left. We'll be talking about those 2. So and this episode will be out. Be about mid-October when you're listening to this. So we will mention that, all being well, we're going to do an episode of the King Street podcast on the original Halloween. Yeah?
Yeah.
Because that's what's showing on Halloween at the King Street.
Yeah, with additional scenes that haven't been seen since they were first shown on the original. The original time it was shown on television in America, I believe, is the only time that those scenes have been shown otherwise. So it'd be the first time ever that these additional scenes will be seen at the cinema.
Yeah, that's going to be cool.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. That will be where I'm spending my Halloween, and so I won't be at work. That's where I want to be spending it anyway. So we'll leave it on that. And also, as we're recording, we have spoken about it at some point. I don't know when. Me and you're going to come back, and we're going to talk about the RoboCop sequels, aren't we?
We are. There's another one though as well. Cool. I mean, I don't know if you've mentioned it. But Critters was also.
Oh yeah,
one,
you're gonna be doing Critters 4, yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah, so so there's a lot to look forward to.
But yes, the RoboCop sequel, 2 and 3.
Yeah, so I will say now that once this season's finished, I'm going to do a few little specials, and then I'm going to go and do the Critters ones. Yeah. So we might be able to fit RoboCop in, but if not, we'll do that at some point.
Yeah.
Because I've already done an episode on the original and the reboot with Ian. And Ian, all being well, Ian Pointer, who done the logo, a big movie fan, he should be coming on. We haven't sorted when we can do it yet, but he should be my guest for the Freddy versus Jason.
Oh, right.
He wants to do it. It's a matter of if we can fit it because he's busy. And,
right.
So he wants to do that because I don't think he's even seen it.
Oh, wow.
And then he's going to come on with a friend of ours who's been listening. Cameron, if you're listening, listens to it a lot. He's never been on a podcast, but he is a lot younger than us. He's early 20s.
Okay.
But he's a fan of Critters.
Brilliant.
And Ian's never seen it. So the first episode of Critters will be us three talking about it. And then we've got different guests. It's all that one's all planned out. I've got the people, and it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Well, I mean, I love Critters.
Yes. So I even went into where someone works today who's going to be guesting to lend them the DVD of part 3 because he's going to be doing that. Right. So anyway, thank you all for listening. Find us on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, as well as there's pages on. We are on Instagram and Facebook. This is Beyond Graves and Stars. I've been Andy Martin, joined by Mr. James Rowe.
Thanks to James. Always great to have him back on the show. Join me next time for a look at Freddy vs. Jason from 2003. This will be the last time Robert Englund donned the glove, sweater and hat as Nightmare on Elm Street meets Friday the 13th. I'll be joined by returning guest and friend of the podcast, Ian Pointer, who'll also be telling us a little bit about his forthcoming time travel-based movie podcast. That's it from me, though, this time. Until then, remember, whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Hello, I'm Ian. I featured on a number of Andy's podcasts, Beyond Graves and Stars, discussing the likes of the House franchise, RoboCop and the remake, and one of my favourites, The Time Machine. I am a passionate fan of time-related narratives, and now with the new podcast Champion, I delve into the most iconic and not so iconic TV shows and movies that explore the fascinating concept of time travel. From mind-bending time jumps to storylines influenced by different eras, I hope to offer insightful discussions and breakdowns of these timeless tales. Join me and fellow enthusiasts as we explore the merits and dismerits of each story. So set your watches and dive into Temprian. It's about time.
I'm Jem.
And I'm Victoria.
And we are childhood best friends with a true crime podcast called
The Criminal Crack. During each episode, one of us presents a true crime case to the other.
And the listener has no idea what the case will be.
So every reaction, question and twisted theory you hear is genuine and off the cuff.
So join us fortnightly on the platform of your choice.
And find us on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok by searching at The Criminal Crack.
Bye-bye.
Keep on trucking.